Welcome back to my critique of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. In this video, we will discuss the various ways that the Ghostbusters Organization has suffered tremendously since Winston Zeddmore's takeover of the company. As tough as I've been on this movie, throughout these videos I've been trying to be as fair as possible, so I'll start this discussion by saying that the Ghostbusters Organization was never a great or well-run company. They started taking cases before they even knew ghosts were real. Egon and Peter provided none of the startup costs, instead allowing Ray to go into extreme debt on his own. They didn't collaborate ahead of their negotiations to buy their headquarters and vehicle, allowing Ray to unwittingly sabotage their efforts to haggle with the realtor, and to buy an expensive used hearse that also needed a ton of extra investment to function properly. Their business model was to put out a commercial and wait for calls about hauntings, and when they finally received one, they used it as an opportunity to extort as much money out of their very first client as possible. As they gained success, they hired an extra Ghostbuster, but not an additional receptionist, creating a hostile work environment for Janine. Instead of acting diplomatically, Peter actively antagonized Walter Peck of the EPA, eventually escalating their feud enough that Peck shut down the protection grid of the containment unit, releasing an explosion of trapped spirits and signaling to the Keymaster and Gatekeeper that the time was right to summon Gozer. Throughout their tenure as Ghostbusters, they seem to have a distinct lack of concern for collateral damages incurred during their ghost hunts, but they don't often endanger actual lives, with one exception.
What the hell are you doing?
This lack of concern eventually bit them, causing their first bankruptcy. After Gozer was defeated, there were considerable damages to the Shandor building and the surrounding area, so the city of New York not only decided not to pay the Ghostbusters for their efforts to save the world, but also to sue them for their recklessness. Admittedly, this was based on an unfair assessment of what actually occurred, but it also wasn't a completely unjustified legal action. However, it caused the business to go bankrupt, and the Ghostbusters went their own ways. Egon returned to academia, studying the environmental effects of human emotions. Ray opened his occult bookstore. Peter started a public access television program called World of the Psychic, and Winston stayed in contact, every once in a while performing with Ray at birthday parties. They never really say what Winston's day job was. The Vigo incident gave them a chance to rekindle their lost business, but they remained cavalier in their process. Apparently, according to Frozen Empire, animating the Statue of Liberty and bolstering enough positive energy to weaken Vigo's slime shield was, quote, a fiasco, and I presume putting the statue back was pretty costly, and generally the stuff of nightmares. Here's where the organization starts to fall apart. According to Ray in Afterlife, people stopped believing, and ghosts stopped appearing, so they lost the firehouse when the neighborhood was bought by an actor, who turned it into a Starbucks. Really? That building would make a terrible Starbucks. And what happened to that? You can't tell me that there are any Starbucks folding in Manhattan. And why would they renovate it back to the way it was in the earlier movies without fixing things like ectoplasm leaks in the ceiling? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Also, Egon became weird, having predicted the end of the world via Gozer's next coming. He stole their equipment and disappeared to Oklahoma, only contacting Ray again 10 years later when he had obtained proof of his theory, though they never believed him. This formally ended the Ghostbusters as an organization for the second time. Years later, after they successfully trapped Gozer in Oklahoma, Winston seems to have decided to fund a new incarnation of the Ghostbusters. Over a 3-year period, he buys back the firehouse and entices the Spenglers and Gary to become the face of the Ghostbusters. The front end. The grunts, who actually go on ghost hunts. They have the original proton packs, the original traps, the original car, the original headquarters, and the original containment unit, which apparently is now full.
After 40 years of compiling spiritual waste,
you ran out of space.
Sounds okay on the surface, except that he provides them with no training, no business model, and no boundaries of behavior. They also don't seem to have a very large budget by which to operate. So, Winston isn't putting his whole heart into the endeavor. I mean, the headquarters is haunted, leaky, and falling apart for unknown reasons. The car overheats immediately after starting, and the electrical system is faulty. The containment unit is already showing difficulty clearing traps, even before they discover the issue of too many stored ghosts, and ghosts pushing outward trying to escape. Winston has given the team defective equipment all around. Apparently, the containment unit also regularly releases massive blasts of spiritual energy that rip apart the fabric of reality. Yeah, and no one is actively trying to prevent it, or even trying to warn the occupants of the building that this is a possibility. This is made all the worse when you realize that Winston has much bigger plans for the Ghostbusters, which are completely secret from the people who serve as the face of the company. The secrecy is probably because the cornerstone of his plan is to steal the intellectual property of Egon Spengler. The plans and patents for the proton packs, the traps, and the containment unit are all owned by Winston now, somehow, even though they were collaboration projects between Egon and Ray, and Callie is Egon's next of kin. Winston has stolen Egon's life's work and is recreating it in a lab that he's keeping secret from Egon's family. When Gary calls Janine about the problems with the containment unit and the cracking walls of the basement, she says she'll bring it up with Winston's engineers. He then has to ask who they are, because he's never met them before. And when he asks what they're working on, intimating that it seems rather secretive, she sarcastically dismisses the concerns.
Super secret underground ghost-busting stuff.
They are actively keeping their activities secret, though, so it's not unreasonable for Gary to ask. Actually, this scene deserves some additional attention. Gary asks if the containment unit has ever been emptied, and Janine gives a flippant answer. Except that the answer is yes. Walter Peck emptied the containment unit by turning it off in the first movie. Then Gary responds that they've just been filling it with ghosts for 40 years. But again, this is wrong. It doesn't have decades worth of ghosts in it. They lost every ghost from the first movie, leaving the unit essentially empty at the end of the film. In the second film, they had gone out of business, but we'll give the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't immediate, so they might have caught some between the movies. Then they have all of the second movie's trapped ghosts. But after the Vigo incident, the number of hauntings dwindled exponentially. Then Egon stole the equipment and they shut down for more than 20 years. This containment unit has maybe a 5-year period worth of ghosts stored inside. If they had 2 ghosts to trap per day, every day, which is way more than they actually worked, let's face it, there would only be 3,600 or so ghosts inside the unit. Why would this laser containment unit be bursting at the seams? Let's put it this way, Winston's new containment unit is basically 5 original units combined together, and Ray states that it can contain the equivalent of 50 million cubic hectares of storage. That means the current unit should be the equivalent of 10 million cubic hectares. That's larger than South Korea, but they're cubic hectares, so it's actually much more storage than just the land area of South Korea. And this is for just about 3,600 spirits, give or take. Even if it were 1 million spirits, the containment unit shouldn't be full. It would make sense if the equipment were getting old and broken, or rusted and hard to use, but they don't say that. They say it's full. Then we're introduced to Winston's secret laboratory in a defunct aquarium he bought in Brooklyn. He calls it a den for squatters and illegal raves, which makes it just perfect for a private secret laboratory, doesn't it? If people are constantly trying to move in, how do you keep it secret, safe, and free of theft? The repurposed lab houses the new containment unit, an ionic separator device, which functions exactly like a trap, but makes the process seem more complicated by having multiple chambers, a target practice room for testing new proton packs, and a literal ghost zoo. He has 3 visible employees and an intern. The first employee, Lars, whom I've been calling an engineer because he comes when Janine says she'll talk to the engineers, is actually a parabiologist. So yeah, what does he know about any of the equipment? Shouldn't be much, except that he knows everything about it because they didn't want to hire another actor. And apparently, according to cast interviews, he sought out Winston for the job, not the other way around, so he's basically an up-jumped Bigfoot truther. Also, on a side note, there's clear animosity from Lars directed at Gary. Sure, he can be annoying, especially if you don't like Paul Rudd, but why? Apparently, that same interview reveals that the actor decided to be hostile to Gary because he doesn't believe Gary is serious about being a Ghostbuster. That's kind of strange. Gary doesn't come across as unserious. He comes across as Paul Rudd in every Paul Rudd movie.
Like Paul Rudd. I see the appeal, but I would also never stand in line for it.
And within the story, Gary is far more serious about the job than Callie or Trevor, so why target him? I guess it's just a little thing, but it shows how dysfunctional the Ghostbusters organization really is at present. 2 factions literally hate each other. The second employee is an unnamed parabotanist, which is a field that should make vegans shudder. If plants have ghosts, whoa. Just saying. And the third employee, who has no name and is only seen in the background once, is a paramusicologist. Yeah. What possible value is there to gain from a paramusicologist? Does she create ghost music? Are you serious?
That's stupid.
I don't think I could imagine a less useful area of expertise for the Ghostbusters organization. Even gender studies might have a valid role in the company, but paramusicology? Whoever this person is, they are actively stealing money from Winston.
You got bamboozled!
The intern, who incidentally has a higher status in the organization than any of the real employees, is lucky, but I've already talked about her. This is a pathetic organization. And why is it secret, other than the fact that Callie should be raking in money off the whole operation? I should also point out that the staff of the secret Ghostbusters organization seem to be completely incompetent, but unwilling to take any blame for their failings. Let's start with the Orb of Garaka. The initial stage of the ionic separator, as explained by Lars, is to detect the spirit within. For some reason, they skip this step with Garaka and go straight to the extraction. When the extraction fails, or partially succeeds as the case may be, Lars removes the orb with his bare hand and is injured through its freezing power. Now, where else have we seen unseasonable and unexplained ice in this movie? Oh yeah, on the other containment unit and the walls around the firehouse basement. But do these idiots put 2 and 2 together? No. Do they say, wow, an orb that can lower its temperature to almost absolute zero might be an environmental hazard that we should try to contain? Nope. And when they discover that the orb has a controlling effect on the other ghosts in the facility, do they isolate it? Definitely not. I mean, why would they? It's not like a ball that resists extraction and breaks your equipment, which can freeze itself and its surroundings, and control other ghosts, might need to be quarantined or anything. Morons. And it doesn't end there. The failed extraction process on the orb causes the entire facility to lose power, which should be catastrophic. I mean, remember what happened when Walter Peck shut the power off in the original film. But in this case, it only facilitated the partial release of Scary Ghost and shattered the glass containment, and thus the protonic containment of the Possessor Ghost, which, to reiterate, is the most dangerous ghost present in the facility of which they're aware. This allows the Possessor spirit to escape the facility, without anyone who works there noticing. This dangerous spirit crosses town and tries to fulfill the bidding of Garaka. Admittedly, these so-called professionals may not ever have understood the intentions of the Possessor spirit, but they were responsible for its release. And then, when the Possessor takes over the stone lion named Patience and attacks Ray, Phoebe, and Podcast, somehow it's their fault, not the fault of the idiots who saw the glass break in the pen of the most dangerous loose ghost and didn't make any attempts to repair it or contain that spirit. This also happens again before the final battle. Garaka leaves the aquarium without releasing a single ghost, either from the new containment unit or from the zoo. However, the weird spitting fishball ghost somehow makes it out of the zoo and all the way to the 3rd floor of the firehouse to incapacitate Lars, leaving him out of the final battle. How did that happen? Did Lars release ghosts so that he wouldn't have to risk his life fighting Garaka? Probably just more incompetence. Even at the end of the film, Winston tells the press that the world is experiencing an increased amount of paranormal activity, completely ignoring the fact that they just caused this condition by allowing the ghosts to be released from the containment unit. He turns his organization's incompetence into a public endorsement of their need to exist. And while we're talking about employees, it's probably best to bring up why my snarky tagline for this movie was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the one where Winston Zedmore's DEI policy almost ends the world. Why would I say this, given all that I've already talked about in the plot of this film? Well, it occurred to me very quickly during the film that the logical solution to Phoebe's problem of being benched is to be hired by Winston. If Phoebe were hired as an intern on the other side of the Ghostbusters organization, she could continue being part of the team without being endangered on ghost hunts, or, to put it more bluntly, without endangering anyone else on ghost hunts. She would be in a research role, much more suited to her temperament. She would have a purpose. She'd be much less likely to even meet Melody, much less be vulnerable to her manipulation. And to cap it all off, she probably wouldn't have started the ice apocalypse. Winston even points it out in the film.
You don't have a job!
But if she did, she wouldn't be making so much trouble for everyone. But no, Winston only has one slot for an intern, for some reason, and he hired the unqualified girl of color instead of the genius granddaughter of the founder of the company, who, rebuilt a proton pack with all the instruction of a ghost-propelled desk lamp. His DEI policy contributed to the sequence of events that almost ended the world. The Engineering Corps, as they like to be called, seems to have 3 functions. Develop bigger versions of Egon's original technology, extract ghosts from spirit objects, which I guess makes inanimate objects animals, since they seem to be the exclusive province of the parabiologist, and to stare at the ghosts in the zoo. I'm not sure how much you can learn from ghosts that cannot communicate in any way, and can't respond to stimuli. But that's probably not their real purpose. They are likely to become an exhibit in the future, so that Winston can charge tickets. But I guess that's just speculation. It does seem like the only logical reason to keep the most dangerous ghost outside of containment. It would be good at entertaining the kiddies. Realistically, there are many avenues that ghost research could take. Winston seems to want to focus on taxonomy, categorizing them. That's somewhat useful, sure. But why are there no staff historians who take down the memories and contemplations of the spirits they encounter? Why aren't there psychologists trying to help the ghosts move on to the other side? Why aren't they exploring the physiology of the spirits? How about quantum entangling certain objects so that they can exist on both dimensional planes? Then they could try dissecting a ghost to see if there's more to them. Or would it be vivisecting? Can you live dissect something that is dead? But that's a question for another video. If you liked this one, please consider clicking the little buttons below and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.